In the diverse landscape of modern faith, certain communities maintain distinct traditions regarding marriage and the ministry. Within the message movement, the question of why ministers prefer to marry a virgin is often discussed. This preference is deeply rooted in specific theological interpretations and the weight of spiritual leadership. Central to this perspective are Old Testament guidelines regarding the priesthood and the high standards of purity expected. Interpretations often point to Leviticus 21:13, which states that a priest shall take a wife in her virginity. For many in the message, the minister is seen as a modern-day spiritual leader held to these same biblical types and shadows. There is also a strong symbolic connection. The minister represents Christ, and his wife represents the chaste virgin bride of Christ. In this view, the marriage becomes a living sermon, reflecting the spiritual purity required of the church itself. Beyond symbolism, there is the practical aspect of community leadership and the example set for the congregation. A minister's household is often viewed as a blueprint for the believers, where traditional values are upheld most strictly. The expectations for a pastor are often higher, as they are tasked with guarding the spiritual well-being of others. Emphasis is placed on the virtuous woman described in Proverbs, focusing on a life of dedication and moral consistency. These teachings were reinforced throughout the 20th century, particularly through the ministry of William Marrion Branham. His sermons often touched upon the importance of the home and the specific conduct of those in the ministry. A core tenet is the idea of separation from the world, living a life that is distinct from contemporary social norms. While modern society has moved toward more liberal views on marriage, these believers remain rooted in their tradition. For them, purity is not just a personal choice, but a spiritual credential for those entering the highest levels of service. It is important to note that these preferences are held within a broader context of grace and individual life stories. While the standard for ministers is specific, the movement also teaches about the power of redemption for all believers. The tension between the high standard for the pulpit and the message of grace is a defining characteristic of the faith. The preference for a virgin bride is often seen as a way to preserve the sanctity and historical continuity of the ministry. It is a commitment to a way of life that they believe was established by divine decree. For the community, this practice reinforces their identity as a called-out people, separate and dedicated. Understanding this preference requires looking through the lens of their specific scriptural and prophetic framework. It is one aspect of a larger worldview that prioritizes biblical types and strict moral codes for leadership. By examining these reasons, we gain insight into the values that shape the lives of ministers within the message. Whether viewed as an ancient tradition or a divine requirement, it remains a cornerstone of their ministerial standards. Ultimately, it reflects a desire for the highest level of spiritual consecration in the service of God. Thank you for joining us as we explore the history and traditions of faith. Until next time,